This is the Ryder and Lisa replay.
Brought to you by Southtown Hyundai. Check out the Southtown Hyundai Advantage at southtownhyundai.ca.
Overrated, underrated with Ryder and Lisa.
Overrated. Posting what song you're listening to on your Instagram story. Nobody's going to download it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't pay too much attention to that.
Trust me, there have been times where I'm like, oh, interesting. I like this person. I think they're cool. They got great taste. Cool, fashionable outfits all the time. Maybe I'll check that out. Then I never do. So What's the point? What's the point? Keep it to yourself. Enjoy it on your own. That's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with me.
Mine is men's T-shirts with sayings on them, and I'm going overrated today. Is there a saying that's good enough to be on your T-shirt for to be part of your brand as a human?
Yes. What about my shirt that says, "Can I pet your dog"? That's funny.
See, I don't mind that one. And I didn't say shirts for females because I do think they're a bit more selective with the sayings. The ones I'm talking about are like it's only illegal if you get caught. I'm not angry. This is just my face. I'm in shape. Round is a shape. I'm not as think as you drunk I am. All of those T-shirts.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just quite often associated with heavy drinking, too. And, if you get pulled over and the cop sees you wearing a shirt that says, "I'm not as think as you drunk I am," probably going to get a breathalyzer, even if you haven't drank yet today on a Tuesday morning. They'll be sketchy. I don't know.
Where do people buy them? Where do you even get that?
Well, I remember the good old days.
Spencer's?
When No Fear would have slogans on the back of the shirt quite often.
Okay.
And they were a little bit tacky, but I was also 12, so it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight, and the dog was cool because I hadn't hit puberty yet. So I wanted to show everybody that there was a fight inside this little dog.
But if somebody bought you a No Fear shirt now, would you wear it?
Based on No Fear having some nostalgia with me, yes. Any other shirt with a saying, hell no. Well, maybe No Surrender. That was like the cheap Zeller's version of No Fear. I'd probably go for that. But
So you instantly judge someone that walks into the room with one of those lame T-shirts?
I may be wrong, but it's highly unlikely. Okay. I don't know. I got no time for those.
So what do you wear? I see you're wearing a Edmonton shirt today. So you just wear stuff you got for free from people that drop them off at the station.
Yeah.
Do you ever
This is a nice shirt. It's a landscape of a city I love.
Okay.
If it said on top of it, "We're way better than Calgary, bro," probably wouldn't wear it.
Play 107.
Is anyone else in a Facebook group about your community, like your area specifically here in the city or surrounding area? Because sometimes it's a dumpster fire, but every once in a while there's this little glimmer of light where you're like, wow, humanity is awesome. People are great. There were several posts in my community group over the weekend that said, if anybody wants some turkey fixings, if you can't afford it, I bought an extra turkey. First person that comes to pick it up can have it for free. There's always posts of people saying they bought extra groceries for families. Whoever wants it, they'll post a picture of all of this food that they bought. I just think that's incredible. Even over the weekend, a woman posted all of her My Little Ponies and said, I have some toys for anyone. Come and get them. First person that shows up. And I just think that is so sweet. So if you're one of those people that posts on these community groups, you're amazing, and I see you, and I love
Sadly, the My Little Ponies went to a brony.
Ryder, that's not funny.
He came over and picked him up before any kids could get there because he has his driver's license. By the way, bronies are a weird group of people that fantasize about My Little Ponies because the voices in the cartoon.
That's not weird, Ryder. You can't be judgy that people are bronies.
Yeah, I can, and I will.
Tell me something good.
All right, my story is about last week, Packers running back Aaron Jones, who had a huge game for Green Bay as they beat Detroit, and then was sad to find out that his necklace had broken off during the game, and the pendant on it contained some of his father's ashes. A reporter who was there wrapping up their work at 1:45 a.m., guy was committed, noticed a trainer from the team who everyone adoringly calls Flea, who was on the field, and he had been there all night on the hunt for this pennant without even being asked.
Wow, this sounds like a spinoff of Ted Lasso.
Honestly, right? He eventually found the thing, which they were saying was like a needle in a haystack because it was quite small and it was buried in like the grass in the end zone. Jones, the running back who lost it, expressed his gratitude the next day, saying thank you to him. He was out there until 2 a.m. It shows how much they care about us, which is just pretty special all around.
And his dad was probably pumped it was in the end zone. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Tell me something good.
One of the most destructive and rapidly spreading invasive species on the continent has been found for the first time in a Canadian national park. And who gets it? Alberta.
Woo!
Why? Because we get all the good stuff these days.
yeah, we sure do. Like syphilis.
And extra COVID.
And an ecological disaster, also known as invasive wild pigs, are here. I'm so excited for us. So
This is at Elk Island, too.
yes, it is. So very close to home. And the thing about wild pigs is they were actually brought to Saskatchewan and Alberta in the 90s to help farms diversify. Some of them escaped.
Yeah.
And now they're eating everything. They just destroy the land.
And breed.
Yep.
When they're not destroying things, they tend to grow in a rapid pace. So that's what's scary about them. Like, they've had open season, which just means you can hunt them whenever you'd like.
Yeah, they just want them gone.
In certain parts of the states, and they still can't get on top of them. So now's the time to make a move, I would say, like, the government to decide that it's open season and allow hunting at Elk Island. That's what I think you need to do, but they don't go down real easy. I had a buddy in Alabama who went out hunting them one night, and he like, just on his Snapchat I was watching, and he's like, this sucker took 6 buckshots before he went down, which is like one of the more powerful bullets that like takes down any other animal with one shot likely.
Yeah, these wild pigs can be up to 330 pounds, and I swear their skin is just made out of steel. But the problem is hunting doesn't help, because if there's any kind of hunting disturbance, they start to scatter, and then they just infest new areas.
Oh, okay.
And apparently they've been seen in 28 different counties here in Alberta already. So that's fun.
This is the first time they've actually set up shop in a national park, though. So we'll see what ends up happening. I know, like, growing up, we were often warned about them when we'd go on, like, quadding trips, because we'd be out all day, no cell phones.
Yeah.
And it was always just said, like, they'll even take down your quad, these dumb animals. They'll
Okay.
just go ahead, steam at you.
I don't know if I'm scared of anything more than a wild pig. I think I would just lay down and be like, just take me.
Well, like,
What do
when
I
you
do? What do I do? Get on its back and ride it? Like, I'm not interested in seeing one of these soon, probably in Edmonton.
Well, when you hear about how good they are at breeding, spreading, like where they go and set up shop and surviving the elements and like being destructive to other species and
Yeah, they like
crops.
hide. Dude, they hide in the winter under like cattails. They burrow themselves. I'm like, that's the scariest thing I've ever heard.
Imagine just going for a walk and being like, what's that? Oh, that's terrible.
Nuh-uh.
We said goodbye to one roommate and have recently welcomed a new one in.
You are the king of roommates. Like, I don't know. Have you ever lived without roommates in your entire life?
There was a stretch right when my daughter was born in Vancouver where there wasn't a roommate, but then one of my buddies needed a place to stay for just a couple months. So then I did end up having a roommate for the rest of my stay in Van.
Okay.
But yeah, no, since I've been 20, I've either lived with my friends, like in a house they owned, or I've owned a house and my friends have rented it. Yeah,
I think that's genius. Like, most people are probably like, okay, this guy still has roommates. Okay, yeah, but they're paying the mortgage.
Oh, I need to offset my child support payment.
Also that, yes. But and you love being around people.
Yeah, that's true,
It's your favorite thing. You
But, like,
hate being alone.
The new guy, Jeff, that
my
has
gosh.
moved in, can eat like a teenage boy, I assume.
I've never seen anything like it. Keep in mind, I was raised in a family with just 2 sisters. So there was just us 3 girls.
And there are
So-
some girls that have big appetites.
Yep,
but
absolutely. I'm one of them. But this guy is giving me a run
So
for my money. Like literally my money, like groceries.
I made a turkey dinner, 13-pound turkey, and there ended up only being 3 of us. We had a couple friends that were planning to come over. They couldn't make it.
Yeah.
So it's just the 3 of us.
Just
you,
the
me, and him.
roomies. Just the roomies.
And I had a reasonable serving of, like more than I probably needed, but that's what I think most people do on Thanksgiving.
Yep.
You the same. And he had at least triple what both of us had, like to the point that he couldn't walk after. And he's a small man.
Yeah.
He's like the size and stature of a young Wayne Gretzky. That's what it like.
Yep.
He reminds me of.
That's very accurate,
Just his
actually.
size and shape.
He was doing dishes and he's like, I'm in so much pain. I don't think I can continue doing the dishes.
Because there's no room in them for all that stuff to go. I don't know where it goes.
I don't understand how parents, if you're listening right now and you are raising children that eat a lot, how do you keep up with the groceries?
Yeah.
How do you afford it? Like when it was you, me, and Grant living there, I would make banana bread. And you guys don't eat treats. Like, you don't care for sweet things. So I'd end up eating the entire loaf, which, like...
I'd have a piece.
Yeah.
And so would Grant. Yeah.
Like, Charlie would have a piece.
Yeah.
But majority of the time, I would find myself eating
Finishing
the
it.
entire loaf. No. Jeff moves in, and I was like, I'm making banana bread. Will you eat some? He's like, yeah. It was gone in an hour. The whole thing was gone in an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm getting this little taste of what it would be like to raise teenage boys.
Right.
I don't want anything to do with it. My girlfriend, Jill, her 2 brothers would get home from school in high school, and they would fire up the George Foreman and grill an entire package of chicken breast.
Which is
The whole thing.
so expensive. Like,
Crazy.
yeah, get a loaf of bread for them.
Casey is so funny. She wrote in saying, we spend about $1,000 a month in groceries. We had to put a lock on the pantry so our 19-year-old would stop binge eating all of our junk food and to stop our 3-year-old from hiding in there and eating. She then goes on to say, we always would find half-eaten snacks on the lower shelves. Like, that is the cutest thing ever.
Awesome. We have Diana on the phone. You have some sons that are big eaters?
Oh my gosh, yes. 11, 12, and 14.
Whoa.
Busy.
Yes, very.
So what kind of things do you make just like to keep them full?
Potatoes. They'll eat.
That's amazing. That answer was so quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, potatoes are filling, so I will make, the big soup pots that you can buy? I'll make one of those full of potatoes for a meal to fill them up.
Wow.
So like half their plate is just packed with potatoes and then they get like, an average size piece of meat or whatever?
Average size for a boy, I guess. Yeah.
And you have a garden as well?
I do. Yeah, I do a 2-acre garden. So I can stock potatoes and carrots and peas and beans, and I preserve and freeze them all to try and help keep my grocery bill down.
Yeah, I love how
Wow.
it keeps going back to potatoes. Do your sons have an Irish accent?
Not yet. We're working on it.
Here's another terrifying episode of Terror Tales.
If you would like to reach out to us, we'd appreciate your scary encounters. It's 780-784-7107, or you can email ryder@play107.com. This comes to us from Erica, and she says, it's not me, but a friend of mine told me this story, and it's always really creeped me out. I thought you guys would like it for Terror Tales.
Yes, I love that. Okay.
My friend had a dream years ago about a decrepit old man who was being chased by wolves. In the dream, he kept referring to himself in the third person as Old Skin. Old Skin's got to get away from the wolves. Eventually, the wolves caught up to him and started ripping him to pieces in front of her. And he kept narrating the events in a monotone voice. Old Skin's being eaten alive. Old Skin's about to die.
That's so scary.
She woke up and felt really creeped out about it. The weirdest part came when she started describing the dream to her brother. He stopped her mid-sentence and asked, was his name Old Skin?
No, this isn't real.
I had the exact same dream, he said, and then seconds later, wolves started howling outside their house.
No.
The story of Old Skin. Submitted by Erica. Thank you for sharing that.
That was so good. If you have a scary experience, we want to hear about it. So please hit us up on the text line or email it to rider@play107.com.
Last week, my daughter was asking about Halloween. I told her that, like, no guarantees, but it looks like we'll probably go trick-or-treating. It just might be, like, in a extra safe, way. But we're just not sure yet what it's going to be looking like in a couple weeks. And you could tell that she was just rattled. It felt like the first time where she was like, okay, I'm done with this.
Well, she's in the prime age of loving trick-or-treating. Like, I remember loving it the most between the ages of 7 and 10. And COVID was a thing when Charlie was 7 and now she's 9.
Yeah.
That's wild to think.
Crappy.
Yeah.
So we're just wondering if you did anything that was like kind of creative to help amplify it. Obviously, the decorations are bigger than ever. As walking around and checking those out can be a bit of a thrill. But as far as like even distributing candy, if you did it in a cool, safe, creative way, hit us up.
You know what I did for Halloween? Just tied a PVC pipe on my railing and then slid the candy down that way. Sit on my deck and just launched the candy down the PVC pipe.
That's amazing.
Oh.
Did you pack some CO2 in that thing so you really made sure you would get it all the way in the bag?
No, I prefer ether.
Oh my gosh. Do you still have that ready to go for this year too?
Yeah, I left it strapped to my railing all summer.
Did you?
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you knew that fourth wave was coming, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Good idea, man. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, no problem.
Have a good day. By the way, $2,600 could be yours with Ryder and Lisa's $20,000 Play That Tune. That is on the way next. I also did something not quite as creative as Eric. Took a lot less work, but I just stood on my front deck, and as kids would come, I'd tell them to open their bag, and I just like Kobe candies into their bag from like one story up.
They loved it.
Yeah, and then I said, like, if you catch it, you get another one. There's some kids that are really good catchers. They got at least 10, 12 candies for me.
Yeah, and like super competitive too. Like, move over. It's my turn. Like, they love that. So I think that's a great idea too.
Yeah, just to keep in mind, I mean, depending on what it looks like I said, just know that you can still have a lot of fun with kids. It just has to likely be a little bit more safe than, it has been in years past.
Yeah, I'm just glad that you've stepped up your game with Halloween candy, because let's never forget that year what were you handing out? Juice boxes. Those are heavy.
That was my ex-wife's decision.
They're
not
too
mine.
heavy.
And it was also paired with candy. But kids still get thirsty.
No, you guys were giving out toothbrushes. Admit it.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
A recent survey found that more than 75% of companies monitor employees' web connections. They check out what you're doing while you're online. And of those, 25% have had to fire an employee for inappropriate internet use. We wanted to ask if you've ever gotten in trouble for something you were looking at online at work.
Yeah.
Or if maybe you're an employer, if you've had to lay the smack down on somebody.
I've had to Google some weird things for our show.
I feel like we kind of get a pass because we could easily spin it as we were talking about that. But there are certain things that like would be hard to defend, I think.
I just checked my history, and why was I researching the Zodiac killer so much? Because it's content for our show. Whereas if you're doing that at your office job, it's like, okay, what's wrong with this chick?
This is not work.
Why are you doing so much research on a serial killer?
Yeah, one of the ones I found on mine was buying Vans stocks. And this is after Squid Games came out, and their white Vans slip-ons went up by like 7,000% in sales. So I was going to buy some stocks. That was kind of for work.
Kind of.
We did talk about it.
Yes, and you would have been able to check in about how that's going for you. Also checking my history here, McRib is back, ? Totally valid question to be asking during work hours
totally
for me. For me
us.
personally, yes.
This one, not so much. I looked up Miszyniec, Poland, Google Street View, which is the town I lived at in Poland 20 years ago, and I just wanted to see what it looked like. I couldn't explain that one to the bosses. I could never say we were talking about Miszyniec, Poland, and what it looks like now.
Well, you do talk about Poland too much on our show.
Thanks, Lise. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Coming up next, I'm pretty sure we're probably going to be talking about animal facts or food if Lisa decides.
Play 107. 107.
A few years ago, we had an annual safety meeting and brought in a guest speaker, a gentleman who was burnt 80% of his body in a workplace accident. And while he was doing the presentation to about 100 people, we had 4 or 5 workers in the background that brought in a company laptop and were watching the Montreal Canadiens play a hockey game in the back of the room while the guy was giving his presentation.
Probably didn't go over real well.
Oh, no.
No, it didn't finish very well.
Like the
Especially when there was cheering going on in the background while the guy was giving his speech. Yeah.
Thank you for the call, man. Appreciate it.
Drive safe.
Oh, that's terrible.
That is so
That they were
awful.
cheering while a guy who burnt 80% of his body was talking about work safety.
Terrible.
Yeah. When he said it didn't finish well, I wasn't sure if he was talking about the game or like those guys' employment, but
We got this text to 780-784-7107 from Dawn. I had an office job in my early 20s. A coworker and I went out and bought popsicles for the office in the warehouse. We went to offer one to an older man who was working alone at his computer in the warehouse, and when we walked up behind him, he was full on looking at adult movies at work. At work.
well,
In the Wi-Fi. Using the Wi-Fi.
there was an office building in my hometown that you could see through the windows.
Okay.
And then like one office, the guy just had nudies all over his office wall.
Nudies.
Like nude pictures of like from mags.
No, I'm aware of what that word means. It's just a funny word.
Anyway,
Nudies.
so we'd like take our bikes and go get a Slurpee and then
No.
ride down on weekends when we knew nobody was there and just look through the windows. That's where I learned a lot of things. Yeah.
We had Mel write in saying one time while teaching, I was playing music during art. It was a clean classroom playlist, but it also played the music videos. I just had the videos on my screen so the kids couldn't see it, but my principal walked in while some raunchy Jason Derulo video was playing, and he was very concerned.
Yeah, I've heard of teachers' phones linking up to the screens too by accident. I had a friend who, she's a teacher, and that happened. And her last browser search was not good.
No, and the fact that I would be so anxious as a teacher in 2021 with all that technology and Bluetooth and
I think I'd roll with 2 phones. I think I'd roll with like the phone that I never connected. I would pay the extra $75 a month or whatever it is to add a phone.
just have a burner phone.
Just to have a burner, kid safe, everything on it. I'd be okay with a classroom seeing type phone.
I would go back to using an overhead projector. Like, do you remember those in math class where your teacher would use a marker and you'd be trying to like read these math equations? It's all smeared because they're left-handed and you're like, I can't learn.
Yeah, I refuse to commit to the new technology.
Christine wrote in saying, I worked for a trucking company and I was in customer service. My boss got so mad at me for Googling pictures of the ice road because people down in the States were calling and not understanding why they weren't getting their stuff on time. So I was Googling pictures of the road.
So that she could send them and be
Yes.
like, this is why. Imagine trying to drive on this.
Or maybe there's traffic. Like, she genuinely cared and wanted to know. Boss was so mad because she was Googling the road. That's wild.
Well, I got caught watching some stuff not at work, but in school a long time ago.
Okay, what happened?
I was asked to do some video work for our high school football team, and I had to go through one of the classrooms to get to the roof. They wanted good angles and everything like that. So I went through the classroom, videotaped the game, and then I had about an hour break before the next game. So I spent some time in that classroom. Some fun videos on the internet, and as it turns out, there were security cameras in this classroom.
So how did that meeting shake down? Did they pull you into a private office and say, we saw everything?
No, the teacher just told me I was never allowed in her classroom again.
That's all she had to say, and you knew that she saw that footage.
I didn't realize it at first, and then she finished off with, oh, by the way, the reason this is happening is because there's security cameras in my classroom. And I went beet red and didn't talk to her ever again.
Wow. Like, I just always assume there's cameras on me, no matter where I go.
Thank you for the call, man. We
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
the vulnerable story.
No worries. Have a good one.
Yeah, cheers.
Ryder and Lisa.
Brought to you by Southtown Hyundai.
Play 107.